What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. BC coming at you with all the latest in the pro wrestling world for this Thursday, September 5th, 2024, which means we are just 24 hours away from the final SmackDown ever on Fox. The final SmackDown on Fox tomorrow, starting next Friday, the 13th of September. SmackDown will indeed be on the USA Network. That is going to take a minute to get used to. But SmackDown is indeed making that jump. And this, the season 26, episode 36, the final show on Fox tomorrow night. Man, you look back at that debut. 5 years ago, October 4th, 2019, SmackDown, WWE is on Friday nights. On Fox, nearly 4 million viewers tune in. 4 million. It was 3.9, just over 3.9 million viewers. And you look 5 years later, and where they've sat at the last 2 weeks anyway, we'll see what tomorrow night shakes out at. Maybe they can creep back up to 2-1, maybe 2-2. Are we asking for too much? But the last 2 weeks, SmackDown 2.05. So it looks like they're going to end up around that area in the ratings conversation. So they started their debut. Fox garnered nearly 4 million viewers. They will end at nearly 2 million viewers. They lost half their audience within that 5 years. They lost a lot of it pretty quickly. Right? Dynamite did the same thing when they debuted. What was it? 1.4 some odd. It wasn't long before we started talking about 1 million. Then they went to 9, then 8, then 7, and now they're struggling just to get that 7 most weeks. But so that's in the pro wrestling world anyway. When something debuts hot, unless you really captivate your audience, you're going to lose a lot in droves very quickly. The hope is that you kind of close that wound quickly, put out your best product, right, to make sure that some of those individuals come back, give you another chance. And then once everything is steady, then you slowly but surely start to build within those 5 years. Unfortunately, they lost almost 1 million up front, and then another 250, and then another 250. And before you know it, they kind of just hovered around 2.3, 2.4 at best. That's at best. There were some times if it was a heavily promoted show where you did have like a John Cena and a Roman and a Brock and maybe another individual. Maybe you popped a 2.5, 2.6. Some weeks, unfortunately, you're at a 2.1, 2.2. But around 2.3, 2.4, and I always thought that they could stay consistent at around 3 million viewers. 3 million. 3 million. Even if they lose a bunch, but they're able to remain steady. 3 million. They debut at 4. They stay steady at 3. They're going to make a boatload of money. Maybe it stays on Fox if that happens. I always thought 3 million was what they were trying to garner. Bare minimum. Bare minimum. They were never able to come close consistently. Again, 2.5s and 2.6 happened here and there. But that's still 500,000 viewers away from, I believe, their goal of 3. And it came as no real shock that when it came time to negotiate, Nick Khan wasn't getting what he was asking for because Fox was not going to give him anywhere in the ballpark. And when Fox finally spoke openly, candidly about it, they said straight out, their president came right out and said, listen, we did not feel we were getting a return on our investment. And he went in depth in those conversations. He felt the ad revenue should be much better than where it was, and that it's much cheaper to put another show on there. Even if it is a little bit less viewership, they can get the same ad. They can get the same price. But then on top of that, for what they were paying WWE, they felt that the viewership should have been better. They felt WWE was not putting their best foot forward and delivering their best product. And they weren't. If you follow this channel, you know they weren't. We would break down these shows segment by segment. If you like it, that's one thing. That's fine. Some people like something that others don't and vice versa. You could love filet mignon. There's other people that don't like steak at all. You could love a nice glass of white wine. Another will tell you it's red wine. That's where it's at. You could love a television show. Another could just dislike it completely. Love the taste of coffee. Some cannot stand the taste of coffee. It's like and dislike. You're always going to have that. But is something good or not? The only way we can find that out is metrics, facts, right? The numbers, the statistics. What are the numbers telling us? Facts is all we have to go on. That throws debates and arguments and discussions to the wayside because facts always have to take precedent. So every time we would say, oh, this SmackDown show should have been a lot better. That SmackDown show, whether you liked it or not, it just wasn't good. The ratings would always back that up, right? You would see a significant drop, 100, 200, 300 plus thousand viewers would say, no, thank you. When a show is really good and we're talking about 3 or 4 really good segments on 1 2-hour show on a Friday night, you'd usually see the number go up, right? It would spike 1, 2, maybe 300,000 plus viewers. Every time we would say this on review shows like this, we were always right. The channel is a microcosm. The amplified unit is a microcosm of the grander scheme of the pro wrestling audience. And that's how we know, is something good or not? It's not about what we like and don't like. Is it good or not? It didn't take long before Fox said, you know what? No, this is not the best that WWE can be doing. Vincent Kennedy McMahon failed them. They gave Hunter Hearst Helmsley a chance. Some areas absolutely improved, other areas not so much. And now SmackDown is in no man's land. Nobody knows what's going on creatively on SmackDown. They are desperate for something of relevance on Friday nights. And that's why you're starting to see 2.05 consistently. It's not just because of it's nobody just waved a Harry Potter wand. Expecto Petroleum, lower ratings. No, it happened because look at what's happening. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Cody is taking on friends for titles. The bloodline is as bootlegged as it possibly can be. Solo Sikoa has to be in repetitive main events of PLEs. A dude that lost 41 straight matches in a row not long ago. That's all you have. Cody's got to face his buddy Kevin, and he's got to face Solo Sikoa. And hope that they build Jacob Fatu correctly, and maybe that'll be a match for the future. And when Roman Reigns does come around, Roman can try to spike the ratings. Fox saying deuces, ooses, and it's all in the business model, man. If you know, on this channel, we always talk numbers and metrics and statistics. So no, we were not shocked when Fox made this decision. That's why I always say why ratings matter. It's because those that talk about ratings and numbers were the ones that are not shocked. We've been following this process from the jump. It was the only thing Fox could do. You can't give another $5 billion to WWE when they're sinking to about to be within a month. Don't be too shocked if they don't dip under 2 million viewers. And now, because they're going to cable television, I guess that's going to be the new normal anyway, like Monday Night Raw. So I guess it is now going to go under 2 because they are going to cable. But that's where they're going to end up, right? 2.05 from a 4 million, 3.9 plus debut. And people are like, I don't know why SmackDown isn't going to stay on Fox, because Fox could not justify spending that much money for a show that is going down the drain so quickly because the company just doesn't care. Creatively, it's bankrupt. Unless one dude, it seems, comes around, Roman Reigns. So now, the 13th, next Friday, they will go over to the USA Network, and we'll see if USA can keep any of that 2 million, right? Or the high end anyway. Or are they going to sink to like Monday Night Raw numbers, where their average is roughly 1.6? And if you're wondering, by the way, Monday Night Raw's rating for this week, we do have the number. It is 1.65. This is with no Monday Night Football competition yet, mind you. 1.65 down from 1.79. Last week. So even though that number, against no Monday Night Football competition last week, even though that was low, 1.7 some odd, They somehow said, hold my coffee. We're going to produce an even lower number, 165. So they lost well over about 140,000 viewers from last week. Some people are going to try to claim that it's Labor Day when it's the opposite, right? Not the opposite of Labor Day. It's the opposite of the conclusion you should be coming to. Labor Day, 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m., people are home. They're getting ready for work the next day, or a lot of people back to school the next day. It's Labor Day. It's a Monday night. It's not like it's Friday night, right? And everyone's looking for an excuse to pop open some beverages. It's Friday night. They say it's Labor Day. Let's celebrate, right? Most people don't even know what we're celebrating. Labor Day sounds good to me. Let's celebrate. It's not Friday night. It's Monday night. People are acting like it's like a St. Patty's Day, right? And they're celebrating the entire weekend. I don't know. In NYC St. Patty's Day, it is celebrated big time at all the bars. No, man. People aren't just out goofing off, setting off pyro and fireworks and drinking around the block on a Labor Day, 9, 10 p.m. Monday night. It's not happening. They're home. I don't know too many people that are out going, but BC, man, we're partying tonight. It's Labor Day. See you at 10 o'clock. It's not happening. It's not happening, man. People are home. They just were bored all day and they said, you know what? This feels good. This procrastination, this doing absolutely nothing. And to be honest, Monday Night Raw sounds like a chore. So I'm going to stay right here on this couch with the Doritos in my left hand and my right hand down the freaking pants. And I don't need Monday Night Raw dragging me down. That's what a lot of people said. That's what 1.65 tells you. If you're going to come up with excuses, you're going to come up with something every half the year bare minimum for pro wrestling, because it's a 52 weeks a year production. 52 of these things every year nonstop. Well, at least half. At least half, you will always have an excuse if the number is low. You can always come up with a big sporting event or a holiday or a debate, a political debate of some sort, right? Playoffs. College football's back. You can always come up with something for at least half the year. Back in the day, we didn't have to do that because even with all of this happening, you think holidays didn't happen? You think we didn't celebrate holidays on a Monday? You think there wasn't debates? You guys think there wasn't big sporting events? Of course there was. But wrestling was whooping most of their asses. So we didn't have to come up with excuses. But now because wrestling is not, we have to come up with all these excuses to make it sound better for the organizations. Well, shouldn't be the case. They should just be putting together a product that is worthy enough of people's attention, worthy enough to captivate people to say, you know what, I'm putting this remote down. This is must-see TV, not, I can skip TV. And that's what a lot of this is. It's skippable, right? I can just watch the highlights the next day. I can just listen. I can listen to BC on the commute to work the next morning and get all the info I need. And I can save myself 3 hours. BC can give it to us in less than an hour, right? Sometimes if the coffee is really flowing, good conversation, if we're live, maybe we go over an hour. But you guys can watch highlights, listen to BC. You can watch the show whenever you want, right? It's not must see. And that's why ratings matter. What is on this show that is making people go, I gotta watch this live? There's no highlights. There's no watching this in 3 days. I can't even wait for BC's dissection of this. I gotta catch this live. That's how good the show is. You're not getting that anymore, guys. And that's the problem, right? And the numbers tell us this. So when you see Raw at a 1.65 and you go, what must it have been? What debate was on? What big sporting event? Holiday. Give me something. There has to be a reason, right? Big Brother was on. The reality competition. Survivor is debuting. American Idol came back. That's why. It's always something. No, Raw just wasn't good. Again, you can like something. That's fine. Others may not like that thing. That's fine. That's preference. Nobody can rip you for preference. But to say something is good when it's not because there's literally no proof. Just because you think it was good, but all the numbers are telling us, no, it wasn't. All of the metrics on the social doohickey machine, this platform for all of the segments on Raw were not absolutely blazing up the platform. They weren't. Nobody cared about them the next day. Live, 1.65. That number tells you. People didn't care about this show, and when we dissected it in the review, one of the only talking points was CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. That was the best part of Monday Night Raw. Everything else, skippable and forgettable. You started the night with Rhea and Liv and Dominic and Damian doing all their things that they've always done for weeks now and months. They're saying words, that they're chasing each other, and by the end of the night, Rhea and Damian and Jey Uso are shaking hands and yeeting. The faces stand tall. That's not fun to wait around 3 hours to watch that. It's that doesn't tell you need to tune in next week, right? What was the big cliffhanger on Monday Night Raw? Jey Uso, Damian, and Rhea were yeeting after beating the heels. I gotta tune in next week. See, when you put it like that, right, that's not spinning a narrative, right? That's not putting a spin on it. That's literally what you're telling your audience. What's the big cliffhanger? Because it's a nonstop soap opera pro wrestling, right? Just a much different kind. It's one of its own pro wrestling, but it's a nonstop roller coaster ride. But you always have to have that cliffhanger. Always tell your audience why they need to come back the next week, and you don't even got to tell them. You show them, and they know I got to find out how this works out next week. But when you just end it like that, faces with another W, everybody's eating, everybody has a smile on their face because the faces have smiles. Good night, everybody. Tune in next week. Why? We just saw the faces get their retribution on Liv, on Dominic, on everybody. Finn Balor, all of Judgment Day. Where's the cliffhanger? Why are you telling? Why should we tune in next week? And then that's why you see what is called, it's okay to skip TV, not must-see TV. That's why you see a 1-8 go to a 1-7, a 1-7 go to a 1-6. When football comes back, don't be surprised if instantly you're at a 1-4, 1-5. And don't be surprised by the end of football if you're at a 1-1, 1-2, if they're lucky. By then, they'll be on Netflix. But don't be surprised, and everybody will go, oh, no, don't worry, it's football. That's why it's so low. We never used to do that. Raw would absolutely punch football right in the face. Now, all of a sudden, because they're not, we have to say, well, it's football, man. Nobody's going to watch wrestling over football, BC. So you're looking at it as an excuse. I'm looking at that as a problem. People just are so quick to pass off pro wrestling. I say it all the time. Back in the day, if Stone Cold was in a promo with Vince McMahon middle of the ring, or if the NWO was headed to the ring, sorry, football, even if it's my Green Bay Packers, I have to put the remote down. Or actually, it was in my hand, but I had the last channel button because I had to switch between Raw and Nitro. And unfortunately, Monday Night Football got Das Boot, or at least was third wheel. It was the third spoke on that wheel. There was no other way, man. Pro wrestling was that hot. I don't know if we're ever going to get that hot again, but you have to have captivating television segment by segment, consistency throughout. Make your audience have that remote in their hand and that last button channel if there is something else that's good on. But at least put your show in contention. Don't make it so bad or so missable or so skippable or so highlightable the next day. In other words, it's so, not in a good way. I gotta see this again. No, I could just watch the highlights. Don't make it such. Because then you're not even giving them the option. They're like, I can just miss this because it's just Raw. Nothing happens on Raw. You take away CM Punk and Drew McIntyre, and guess what? You had a show that was average. The Judgment Day's segments was beyond average. Nobody cares about this Intercontinental Triple Threat tournament just to come up with another number one contender because they're too lazy to develop a storyline. If you're teasing Jey Uso and Braun Breaker, which I thought was a really good 1 minute backstage segment with them this past Monday, then just go full throttle with that story. Don't waste all of our time and their time with this stupid, silly tournament. Every time we need number one contenders, we always have to have a tournament for it. And then when there comes a time for an actual tournament to be meaningful, it's already lost its luster because it's overran, it's overdone. Another tournament, and these numbers are showing you. Again, last week was a 1-7 semod. There was no Labor Day last week. These ratings, these numbers are telling you, nobody cares about this stuff. You put Damage Control, all of a sudden faces out of nowhere. You put them out there, and they have this match that nobody in the crowd cared about. When the match ended, yet again, crickets, silence, negative decimals. And then afterwards, you take Damage Control and you have them argue with the other two faces, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair. I got to keep track here, right? So they got booted from being heels because a more superior heel group out-heeled them. So then they became faces. And now it looks like they're going to be outfaced by Bianca and Jade because they're not beating Bianca and Jade for the titles, right? Unless you're telling me like Asuka's coming back and she helps. So then Jade and Bianca lost the titles at Clash at the Castle to Alba and Isla just because it was Scotland. Then they waited a month or 2 months, whatever it was, and then they got the titles back. And then a few weeks later, they lose them again to Io and Kairi, who unfortunately are getting crickets for a reaction because booking, creative has messed them up. So what is it? They're being booted from being heels because you booked more dominant heels. Now you have them booked with other... you turn them face out of nowhere, absurdly. Now they're faces arguing with even bigger faces, so they're going to be outfaced. And that's what we're getting on Raw this past Monday. And you wonder why the rating is 165 and you're searching for anything. Sports, holidays, anything, man. Labor Day, yes. Everybody's partying at 9, 10 o'clock on a Monday night. That's what it is. Nothing on this show. Alpha Academy and American Made, again. And one of what should be the brightest parts of the show, the Wyatts, they're out there for 30 seconds to a minute, right? Uncle Howdy is just accepting a challenge for a street fight for next week. That's it. That's all they had. It's a 3-hour show, man. One of the things people are looking forward to the most are the Wyatts. Can you do a little bit more than a minute? I understand. Okay, you want to keep what's special. Keep it special. You're going to do the street fight next week. You don't want to overdo it. I get it. But can you get creative and do a little more than 1 minute? Because it's this type of booking that gets people kind of checked out, man. And when you only pull 165, that means that's a lot of people that were the 140,000 that you lost from just 1 week ago. A lot of those people were interested in the Wyatts, I'm guessing. But now the whole show in totality is missable, so that includes, unfortunately, the Wyatts. So if you like the show, that's your prerogative. That's your thing, man. If you didn't like it, that's your thing. When we do these reviews, it's not about what you liked and didn't like. We're going through, we're dissecting every segment, and we're seeing what is working and what is not for the character, for the storyline, for the show, and for the company in totality. And if there's more negatives than positives in all those boxes, guess what? It did not hit. It was a miss. It's not good. And that's what the numbers are showing us. SmackDown at a 2.05. Monday Night Raw at a 1.65. These are the lowest numbers in show history, both shows, as far as a consistent basis. Lowest numbers ever under Paul Levesque McMahon, Hunter Hearst Helmsley. The creative has to get better. We all know that. It's funny that Balor recently had some fun with the... there's been heavy criticism of all the things, right, that you could criticize Hunter Hearst Helmsley. One of the biggest things that's out there is the tag team division. People are really getting fed up that there's no direction for the men and the women. So Balor is obviously hearing this because he's one of the champs, and Balor says the following. And again, the criticism is just. That's obvious, right? I mean, you look at DIY, 28-day title reign. 28 days. You took the titles off of Waller and Theory for what? To give them to DIY for 28 days, who just gave it to the Bloodline just so it looked cool behind Solo going into SummerSlam. They just want to look like, this faction's dominant. Look, they have the gold. That's all they did. So DIY, everybody is still kind of like, what was that about? And then you look at the women, obviously, and Jade and Bianca lose the titles to Alba and Isla just because it was Scotland. Then they just get them back out of nowhere recently at the Bash in Berlin. That's what it was, Bash in Berlin. And Jade and Bianca get the championships back. So everyone's like, wait, what happened with Alba and Isla's title reign? What happened? I mean, I guess it is better than the 28 days from DIY, right? At least Alba and Isla got 2 months. Beggars can't be choosers. They got 2 months of a title reign. But people are like, wait, it's happening over here, over there. And then you look at Judgment Day. They've been champions for 2.5 months. I don't even know if they have a title defense, guys. I'm thinking of maybe one, but it might be 0. It's a good chance they have 0 title defenses. If I'm wrong, it's only by 1. So a lot of people are like, wait, how are they? They're just holding the titles at this point. They're just keeping them warm. So the tag division is getting a lot of heat. So Finn Balor recently responded, had some fun with it. Balor put on his social doohickey machine, and I quote, "Work smarter, not harder. Hashtag 72 days champion." So they've reached the Harry, I've reached the top. They have reached 2 months, and Balor is ecstatic. He thought by now they would have taken him, so he's like, hey, work smarter, not harder. I'm not saying a thing. If I don't have to defend it, I'm not going to. The old Finn Balor would be looking for matchups and title defenses, right? I'd be a fighting champion. No, Balor's like, listen, if Hunter Hearst Helmsley's not noticing or doesn't care, you ain't hearing me care. And then JD McDonald's responded to that. McDonald says, has it been that long? We're killing it, he says. Has it been that long? We're killing it, because even McDonald's knows, how did we, in this climate for WWE Tag Team Division, how did we hold these titles for 2 straight months? Under the radar, nobody noticed. So they're having some fun with it, but that is a heavy criticism right now, man. Right up there with the women's division being the other. These are 2 areas that have to be attended to. And then once you get that locked in, then you really have to start focusing on the mid-card. The mid-card, there's so much talent, yet we're starting to see the same matches over and over. I don't know how many times we can see Santos Escobar and LA Knight, or Mello and Andrade. How many times you're going to see Alpha Academy and American Made in the future. I don't know how many times you're going to see Damage Control and Sonya's group over and over again. The only time they'll have a break is when Io and Kairi are going against the other faces now, Jade and Bianca, I guess. Or you're going to get all 3 they're just going to throw everybody in there like they always do, right? So you'll get Sonya's team, you'll get Shayna and Zoe against Bianca and Jade versus Damage Control. You'll get all the teams. They'll probably add a 4th team, because there's no creativity. And it's much easier if we just throw everybody in there and hope nobody asks questions. But I thought that was funny with Balor, man. Like, acknowledging how much criticism is out there. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, it's good that he's finally hearing this, man. We want to see this product, these shows succeed. We want to see Hunter Hearst Helmsley succeed. Or, if he can't, get out of the position. The problem is Hunter Hearst Helmsley is wearing a billion hats. He's doing all these things, and he cannot properly focus on creative. It's 5 hours of television every single week. 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 1 to sometimes 2 PLEs every month. So it's bare minimum, if you include the PLE, that is bare minimum, nearly 10 hours of content. This is a dude who said the 3rd hour of Raw is so hard to book. So you're keeping him with the 3 hours of Raw, then you're adding 2 hours of SmackDown, then you're talking about PLEs on top of it. Like, it's not a cherry on a Sunday. He's not looking forward for more hours of creativity. And it's clear that he's struggling. And a team of 617 creative writers that he has, doesn't look like anybody is pulling through here. Nobody is contributing to consistent, really good television. So you go back to Monday night and you have to rely on the shoulders of CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. Thank goodness for that segment. If not for that, I don't know what would have been the bright spot of this show. You talk average AF, that would be the personification of it. The exact description of it. So that is your Raw rating. That is your SmackDown talk, man. Tomorrow, the final SmackDown on Fox. I think this was a discussion that had to be had, right? Especially with the landscape changing. Now SmackDown goes to USA, and you're going to have these same discussions because now USA has spent a lot of money on this. They don't want to just see Raw numbers. They would have kept Raw. They don't want to just see a 1-6 or a 1-7 or even a 1-8. They're not against Monday Night Football anymore. They're on Fridays as of now anyway. There's no reason. They want a higher rating, a return on their investment. They want to know that Hunter Hearst Helmsley and WWE is going full throttle to bat for them as they did for them, paying them all that money. They don't want to see the same Raw type rating. They would have just kept Monday Night Raw. I doubt very much they'd rather be on a Friday and not a Monday. But they know that Monday Night Raw is a sinking ship. They're around 1-6s already, and that's without football competition. They don't want to do this going into this football season, so they bailed. They're out. It was only because the Netflix deal doesn't start until January that WWE, Nick Khan, went back to USA and said, hey, what if we worked out a deal for 3 extra months? That's the only reason USA Network agreed for an extension, guys. They were supposed to be done this month with Monday Night Raw. But they agreed on an extension for tens of $millions off the books, guys. They got a deal. USA Network got a massive deal. Nick Khan and WWE just wanted to be on cable television until their Netflix deal starts. So they didn't care. They knew they were going to get kind of raked over the coals. They knew it, and they did. USA Network made off like bandits for the next 3 months. But other than that, they're going to be looking for big numbers starting next Friday. And it's up to WWE to deliver that. And on the flip side, Monday Night Raw will be going to Netflix. If you think numbers are not going to matter just because they're now on a streaming service, think again. It may not be in the terms of like the rating, a cable rating or a broadcast television rating. Now they're going to be tracking hours that were viewed in terms of streaming. So the number of streaming hours that were viewed concurrently, consistently, that's what they're looking for. That's why their whole model, Netflix and a lot of these streaming services, that's why they would put full television shows out in bulk, the whole season in one night. Now they do like kind of half seasons because they also want to bring in advertisers. So streaming is becoming like cable, but they're bringing in advertisers as well. But they want to keep you there for hours on end, right? That's why they still do at least half seasons of many of their shows. They want to keep you there concurrently. That's what made WWE Raw so sexy to them. They saw the declining numbers. They're hoping they can raise them, but they want those hours streamed, right? 3 hours every Monday Night Live. So even if you do miss it, when you do catch it, they want you to view all 3 hours, even if it is Wednesday or Thursday. They want you watching the majority of that 3 hours. And if your show's not good enough, doesn't matter what day they catch it, even if it's not live, they want to make sure you're catching the majority of that 3 hours. If that show is not good enough and fans are tuning out after a half an hour or skipping ahead and they're only getting about 25 minutes out of a 3-hour show, well, guess what? Netflix is going to be pissed. And we've had this conversation recently on the channel. Netflix does not play around. They're very quick to cancel their own shows, not renew for another season. With the WWE, it's a lot harder. They paid this 5 years in front. Up front, they paid it. So now they know they're kind of locked in here. They're expecting WWE to hold their end of the bargain. If the numbers are failing in Netflix's eyes, the hammer's going to come down. And this will be one of those times where Hunter Hearst Helmsley is going to have to feel that sledgehammer from Netflix, because Netflix's sledgehammer is very, very devastating. They will absolutely make changes themselves. They will make sure those changes get made. It'll come to a point where Nick Khan has no choice but to override Hunter Hearst Helmsley on a lot of things, and it could come to terms of many things and most things. Hopefully you guys get all that convo, man. The landscape is changing. Next Friday, SmackDown over to USA. In just a few months, Raw over to Netflix. You're talking streaming service. That streaming game has finally been initiated. There's a lot of things changing, and numbers matter now more than ever. No matter what anybody tells you, now more than ever, numbers for these shows and these products, they matter, man. You can damn well bet on this channel we're going to keep track of them for you. Let's run through some of the other news real quick because that conversation took a long time. I get it, but there was a lot to say, man. Final SmackDown ever tomorrow night. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about why SmackDown is no longer on Fox and what Fox gave us as an excuse. Not really an excuse, a reason. They were straight up. Why? Are we no longer doing business with WWE? This is why. And it's everything BC told you from the jump. That's not a pat on the back. Not happy that I was right yet again. But I saw it from a mile away, miles away, that was the only direction Fox was going to go. And I honestly believe USA would have washed their hands completely with WWE had they not gotten SmackDown for $40 million cheaper than what Nick Khan was originally asking for. 40 to 60, whatever it was. I think when they heard that, they were kind of like, and then they took it. And then, of course, they got that sweet deal with the extension on Raw for 3 months. In other news, Kairi Sane. She did receive stitches for that botched Raw spot this past Monday night. A massive botch. I still don't know. I guess Bianca was supposed to be pulled in the way, and it did not come off as planned at all. Like, as it happened live, it didn't even look like Bianca was pulled. I just saw Kairi launch herself off the ring post and face first into the commentary table. It looked like she was purposely just trying to throw her face from way up high into the commentary table. I was like, you got to show me a replay, because that wasn't just a botch. That was massive, and I have to find out what was the planned spot. They never even showed the replay, and that was a huge spot, man. Kairi had some height and went face first into that commentary table. And it was supposed to set up the finish, by the way, why Jade would attack and be pissed off at the damage control. So that spot set up the finish, and they still didn't replay it. So that shows you it must have looked so bad during the production truck replays that they couldn't even get a good angle, guys. Usually they'll manipulate it. They'll give you the best angle for them. No, they came up with no angle. 16 cameras, no good angle. It was a botch, and Kairi just went face first. Thankfully, she is okay, but she did receive stitches. The gash was big enough. She was bleeding, obviously, during the match. And then, of course, everybody posts their battle wounds now, right? If you're bleeding, it's got to be in a photo, and people got to see it so you look badass. So backstage, she was posting about it with, just blood on her face. So right then, you knew she was all right. But no big. We didn't hear about a concussion. We'll do some more research on that. But WWE, I'm sure, would give us that info. I think it was just that gash. Some stitches. They might keep her out of action maybe this Monday. She could still be a part of a storyline, though, because, again, no concussion means they can still be a part of the show. So we'll find out more. But Kairi Sane, okay, but stitches were had after that massive botch. Hulk Hogan, legendary Hulk Hogan, did sign a new 5-year deal with WWE. It's Legends-esque. It's not the traditional Legends deal that we're familiar with. But we're starting to see that's the new normal with Nick Khan and these legends, right? Jesse Ventura just says his is very different than a stereotypical Legends deal. Hulk Hogan is saying there's a lot of things that were added, a lot of things taken out. It's not the Legends deal that we're familiar with. So that might be the new normal as well. Hulk Hogan now is going to be a part of the WWE family going forward for the foreseeable future. The next half decade, Hulkamania back in WWE. There was a mandatory talent meeting before Raw this past Monday. No cursing during matches was one of the biggest discussions. That led a lot of people to think that this was all because of The Rock. He's going to be coming back in a few months. Don't think that you can do what The Rock is doing. The Rock is The Rock and you're just pebbles. Fruity pebbles. So a lot of people think it has to do with The Rock coming back, so they're just trying to remind everybody. But I also think it's, you started Jada Parker recently, her match with Roxy at No Mercy, and then this past Tuesday in her match as well, Fatal Influence. And you could see her audibly yelling, "You fucked up," to her opponent many times. "You fucked up." And the camera was right on it. And I was like, damn, Shawn Michaels, does Jada Parker know you got cameras on you? And then all of a sudden we hear about this, right? That was the Roxy match before the Raw meeting, and then Tuesday night after the Raw meeting. So I guess this didn't trickle out to Jada Parker. Or maybe it did, right? And maybe the No Mercy match is what kind of got it over the edge, and they just missed it on. I don't know. I saw Jada Parker on camera just screaming, "You fucked up," and then all of a sudden we're hearing about a meeting. And one of the biggest things was stop swearing. There's cameras on you. Always be mindful of that. So we're not blaming Jada Parker. I love Jada Parker, by the way. You talk about a bright future. It ain't just Roxy. Jada Parker, man. And Kalani George. They got a lot of good talents right now in NXT. I just thought it was funny that I was like, damn, Jada's just like swearing, dude. You fucked up, and you could hear it and read it off her mouth, and then all of a sudden they have this meeting. So maybe it's more rampant than we knew. Maybe a lot of wrestlers are just kind of going kind of left field, right? Nobody cares. Hunter's going to be relaxed. He's not going to say anything. Well, he might not, but other suits and ties are going to, man, because when it comes down to the bottom dollar and advertisers are like, I heard that your wrestler is swearing in the ring. WWE is not going to want to lose that money. Bryan Danielson. How about this one, guys? Bryan Danielson recently said that he got a legal notice from WWE. Apparently, his management said that yes, the slogan, the phrase, yes, it was open for trademark, so he could purchase it. He asked about how much. It wasn't that much money. Danielson submitted for the trademark. Then, instead of getting accepted, he got a legal notice from World Wrestling Entertainment saying that he's infringing on their trademark. In other words, tread wisely because we own this. You're trying to take it from us. We like you, dude. Because it wasn't a straight up cease and desist, he said. It was not a cease and desist. He said, careful, right? The legal team said, careful. You're treading on very thin waters. We like you, but not that much when it comes down to the bottom dollar. So Bryan Danielson is like, dude, I wasn't trying to sell anything. I heard it was up, and I'm just trying to do my own thing, he said. So apparently he absolutely obliged, obviously, because WWE, you're not going to win that. If they have the trademark, you're not going to overstep them. I wonder what it is, though. Like, I knew they had yes, just one word, yes. It's wild how you can do that, but yes, WWE had yes. But yes, I thought they did let go a couple of years ago. But apparently they re-picked it up because he wanted yes 3 times. Yes times 3. Yes. And WWE said no. All right, now we save the best for last, the main event spot, if you will, for the podcast, for today's upload anyway. And that's some angles that transpired on NXT and AEW Dynamite this week, and Monday Night Raw for that matter, because we're going to take a storyline from Monday Night Raw, the only really good thing from Monday night to BC, and by the numbers, most fans. But the best thing on Monday night, the best thing easily on Wednesday Night Dynamite, and we're going to talk about that in a second. But Tuesday night's NXT produced Julia in the ring face-to-face with Roxy, and she says that their match will indeed be taking place on the move to CW. Julia, Roxy. It's happening a lot sooner than a lot anticipated. That was easily the biggest part of Tuesday night. That was one of those moments you're like, first of all, just seeing them face to face and then thinking about the match that they're going to have. And then on Monday night, obviously, the best storyline in WWE right now, to be seen many, is CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. It is that good. And this Monday took it to a whole nother level. Punk is so happy. He won in Bash in Berlin, the strap match. He thinks that Drew's in the rear view. He's setting his sights now on Gunther in the world title, and Drew's like, no, hold my coffee. Takes out Punk, 3 devastating claymores, reclaims the bracelet, says, I don't even want to play this game of back and forth, hot potato, snaps the bracelet, half the beads go everywhere, the other half go in CM Punk's mouth. Medical is about to stuff him in an ambulance after commercial break, the next segment. Medical cannot do such because Mac is back for another attack. Bloodying up CM Punk, just 2 very well done segments. And it gave us something to talk about that was actually really good on Monday night. A feud that has been one of, in this past Monday, surpassed everything else as the best feud in WWE and all of pro wrestling. Until Wednesday night, where now you could put something in its category. And what I'm talking about is Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page. Dynamite produced a contract signing, or was supposed to anyway. And for All Out, Swerve and Hangman and that rematch, that feud that's been ongoing for months. Hangman was not there, though, for the contract signing. Tony Schiavone says a couple of times, introduces him, the music plays, there's nothing. All of a sudden, you see Hangman Page at the childhood home that Swerve grew up in earlier in the day, posting that he, thankfully, with this new contract that he has with AEW, he was able to purchase his childhood home. Hangman Page delivered, I feel, his best promo, if top 3 easily. If I really put some thought into it, probably his best promo he cut as he's going around this house pouring on the gasoline. He goes into the front lawn. He sits on a recliner. He's got his flask or whatever. He's got his drink. He lights up a mega match, and he proceeds to burn down the childhood home of the newly purchased childhood home of Swerve Strickland. And Swerve was playing this beautifully, right? If you read about this first, you would have thought this came across probably, most likely, very hokey, very corny, right? Just thinking about expressions and, I mean, how do you pull this off flawlessly? Swerve throughout the entirety of the promo and the house going up ablaze. Swerve came across as somebody deep in authenticity, not overselling expressions too early. As the promo went on and it was pretty clear with the gasoline that Hangman had, you start to see Swerve kind of looking at Tony, looking at Nana, and he's thinking, what? Nah, he's not. And then all of a sudden you see him put his hand on his knees toward the end of that promo as Hangman's going to the lawn. And then you see him drop to his knees in tears as he sees his home he just purchased go up ablaze. And Hangman, just cool as shit, just hanging there with his flask in his recliner as it all goes down. And you have Swerve and Hangman now having a Feud of the Year candidate that I can only think is being topped in terms of wow factor. It's only being topped, if by anybody else, by CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, and their WWE feud, which happens to be simultaneously right now, by the way, and very long in depth. And it's just odd that or ironic, I should say, that it's CM Punk and Hangman Page that are both involved in these two separate feuds. These are the two that had that very distinct and very strong animosity toward one another. Very strong tension between the two. They just don't like one another. And that leaked out into their segments, the television show. They brought that into the ring, CM Punk and Hangman Page. And it's just ironic that here they are, they went their separate ways, and they're both doing very well right now. Hangman Page has a Feud of the Year candidate, and so does CM Punk. So it worked out for both. CM Punk just had to go elsewhere. Hangman Page had to totally redefine himself. Tap into a whole different Hangman Page than we've ever seen. But here we are with that. I thought it's one or two ways you're going to look at that, right? Hokey and corny still, even though I thought it was done flawlessly. The selling by Swerve and Hangman's promo and the delivery of it. But you're still going to find people that are just going to kind of rip it if that's what they do anyway. And maybe tribalism comes into play for that as well. But I thought AEW nailed it, knocked it right out of the park. That's a huge gamble. And that's the type of television we need in our pro wrestling. You can have all the pro wrestling in the world. If we don't have those type of moments, because trust me when I say, you're going to remember feuds like that. You're going to remember moments like that. Pro wrestling has to have those. And for WWE, man, that was one of the better CM Punk Drew McIntyre segments. And that's saying something, because most of the time when those two are together, it's beyond captivating. So right now you have both of them kind of competing for this feud of the year. And maybe because you want to have at least 3 or 4 feuds in any category. You want at least 3 to 4 options, right? So you guys can decide what other 2 feuds would be up there with them. But I think most of us would easily put those 2 feuds, whether you love a company or don't like the other company and vice versa or not. Maybe you don't even watch AEW Dynamite. You don't even know about it. You're just like, no, thank you. That is not feud of the year. Well, to many people, it is, because, I mean, it's going strong, man. And they're going through different layers and different depths that we haven't seen in a long time in pro wrestling. So, right now, man, those 2 things, I mean, that is storytelling 101. Drew and Punk and Hangman and Swerve. A lot of people like BC saying that Punk and Drew saved Monday Night Raw and is kind of helping, because nothing's happening on SmackDown Friday nights. It's helping to save WWE right now. I mean, they're even saying Cody Rhodes' championship reign is beyond lackluster. It's Punk and Drew lifting up WWE, and a lot of people are saying that AEW Dynamite last night was kind of middle of the road. A lot of it was just filler or just average or just nothing you'd go back and watch again. Yet nobody's talking about it being average. We're all talking about that huge segment with Hangman and Swerve. The contract signing that never was, because, well, the segment got burnt down. We'll just say that. 2 mega stories going on right now. 2 mega feuds. Feuds of the year. Which one is going to top the other one? It's going to be decided on what happens in the coming weeks, man, for both. But very interesting. I had to talk about that, because I was like, wow, man. I was so enamored by Swerve selling every word he was hanging out with Hangman, and then Hangman delivering that promo, and then actually Tony Khan had the balls to light that house ablaze. I was thinking to myself, I don't even care if that's CGI'd, man. That still costs so much money. There's so much thought that goes. I think it was a real house, by the way. It could have been CGI'd. I don't even care. It takes so much planning to do something like that. And that's what I love, because it shows that the company, the owner, the creators, the writers, everybody cares enough, right? You show you care by the effort, man, the energy, the resources you put into it, right? The financials you put into it. That's how you care. Too many times we see wrestling shows go on the air and off the air and nothing happened. You're like, what the It's like autopilot. Cruise control. To what? I don't know. But if it's like WWE and they're making record revenue, they don't have to put their best foot forward. They're going to liquidate the fans that they do have. Tap into the kid market. They'll drag the parents, and you'll sell out more shows, and doesn't matter if the show is as good as it can be. But that, man, I was like, damn, I don't know where you go from there, right? Burning the dudes. But Swerve and Hangman, it's moments like that even if you don't watch the show, it puts at least that feud on the map, and then starts the discussion. Oh, man, WWE going ballsy with burning down the house. No, that wasn't WWE. That was AEW. We'll see. I don't know if the numbers are going to be, because again, a lot of people, I didn't get to see the show in totality. So a lot of people are saying the show in totality was not that good. So I don't know if the rating is even going to peak 700. A lot of people didn't know that the house was going to burn down in the last segment, But will that bring people next week to the show, right? Pique people's curiosity. How do you top that? Right? Balls in your court, right? Because you want to keep elevating a feud. How do you top that? We'll see. Guys, a lot of good discussion, a lot of good news we talked about as well. This was a long one, but it's podcast format. I always say, listen to BC, don't worry about watching. Always pop in the earbuds, go about your day, and I'll got you covered with all the news. I got you covered with a great wrestling discussion. And hopefully this was no exception. Until next time, there will be that next time. There'll probably be an upload, hopefully anyway, tomorrow before SmackDown. Be cool if we could do that live, but I cannot guarantee that. BC will have you covered on that SmackDown, the last ever, top to bottom, beginning to end, start to finish. I got you covered. Everything that happens on this last ever SmackDown on Fox. Until next time, and there will be that next time. Top guys, we're out. BC in the unit saying check you.